Howdy, everybody. I'm Taz Thornton. That there is my... I can't get my pointing right.
This
is my wife, Asha Clearwater. For weeks now, we've been talking about doing a special live broadcast for Pride Month. We are, in fact, still in the same house. I'm in the dining room, and Asha's in the living room on pooch duty. And when it came to do this broadcast, we just started to go into a little bit of bickering. So, well, what do you want to talk about then?
And I don't know.
You tell me what you want to talk about. And eventually we decided that what might actually be helpful is talking about exactly that so many people will say to us in this kind of blissful, ideal, imaginary setting, oh, it must be lovely to have two women living together. Except, of course, what they don't think about is two sets of hormones in one house. You know, Asha's been going through menopause for a while. I'm in perimenopause. It's wonderful. And we've been together for 23 years and we love each other to bits. But sometimes we will just bicker. And that's what happened today. So we lost a good 5 minutes of broadcast time because we were bickering over what we should talk about. And we very almost didn't go live at all. So we figured we'd come and talk to you about some of the ways that we've managed to calm things when we've been going through challenging times. Because although we love each other to bits and we genuinely are really, really solid, it's not always moonlight and roses, is it?
Nope. There you go. Look at that. So even the way I very clipped. No, but you're right. And I think that's one of the things that we don't address very often. When you get two women in a household together, particularly when the hormones are flying, it can be challenging. And even when they're not, you know, you're just having quite a challenging day and you've got to learn to find the way through it so that you're not forever having those bickers don't turn into big arguments. And that's the thing. That's the really important thing, because we still laugh about it and we've got ways to kind of see ourselves through that. So if we get to a point where it's getting a little bit too tense, we've got, you know, words to bring us out of that, haven't we? And get back to a more positive place, really. So it does work. It's worked for 20 odd years, Taz. So you must be doing something right.
It's noticing it when it's happening, isn't it? Because I know when you were first starting to go into menopause, and it really did mess with you, didn't it? It proper knocked you around a lot, and you weren't very well at the time as well. And I think the difference is that when you were going through it, and still every now and then, you know, because fellas, if you're watching this, menopause doesn't last for like 18 months and then go away. It can last for years. And what's fun now is I've caught up, so we're both having a bit of fun with it. But it's catching it, because I think until you're starting to go through it, you don't recognise how challenging it can be. And it's displaying quite differently in us, in that Ash used to get, and still do sometimes get, quite angry and clipped with it. And I know a lot of that was internalised stuff, and you'd beat yourself up a lot. Look at that face.
No, but I'm just thinking, because as you were saying that, I was thinking a lot of people that know us quite well, I think they know us quite well, always assume that you're going to be the really hard-nosed one and I'm going to be the really floaty romantic one. And actually, it's often the opposite, which amazes some people that they think they know us. So it's interesting that comes up. So I can be very clipped, and I do internalise a lot of my anger. So I'm working with ways to get through that and work with that, and I have got better. And it's noticing.
I'm alive.
I've run out of things to throw, Taz. That's what it is. we are jesting now, everybody. We are jesting. But I mean, it's a serious subject, and it's one that isn't talked about. I think, you know, for two women in a relationship together, is something that doesn't get talked about. You know, when we're both of a certain age, we're both going through things at different times. There's 6 years age difference between us, isn't there? But having had me go through it, it's been very different for you. So even though I've had a bit of a heads up with stuff, it's still, you know, how it affects you, the menopause and being perimenopausal, is very different. Has been very different for you. Yeah. So it's finding the commonalities, the things that we can, and retaining a sense of humour. That's got us through so many times, hasn't it?
So how did it hit you most, Ash? What would you, I mean, obviously I know, because I was there, still am. How would you describe how it was impacting you for anyone who hasn't been there, or is in the beginning stages and thinking they're going mad?
Oh, well, for me, I mean, you know, forgetfulness is probably one of the common things. For me, it was headaches. I was getting migraines. I've never had a migraine in my life until I became Mary Penn-a-Morsel. Look at that. You see, get a
Sound like Mary Poppins.
It's like, So there you go. You mix up
Penimorsal.
your words. I'm a journalist, an editor, and a writer, don't you know? But obviously not a speaker at this precise time. Thank goodness. And it's laughing about things like that, you know. But it for me, headaches were a big clue because I'd never had a migraine, and you had migraines before, and I can remember being really quite dismissive of those and saying, "Oh, it's just a headache." No, it isn't. It's so much more than that, and that's been the big thing. Hot flushes, which I'm still going through, still working on that one.
Because you're so hot, maybe.
Well, obviously, darling, obviously. Thank you. But it's also just really forgetting, you know, walking into a room, thinking, why have I walked into that room? Going out somewhere, you know, taking a route that you've been taking for years and thinking, I've forgotten how to get to here. That was the other thing when we were networking a lot and going out on the days. Remember, everybody, before lockdown, when we were allowed to go out and about and go to networking events, meeting in person. I was losing my way with things, and I'm to revert back to the sat nav again when I knew the route like the back of my hand. Lots of things, Taz, you know, aches and pains generally, and just that kind of lack of energy really as well, just wanting to sleep all the time, which again can be mistaken for all sorts of things. Depression, that can be also another sign of that, and that came with it for me as well. So, you know, it was not just one thing, it was lots of things, as it has been, I know, for you, but very different things for you, right?
So, yeah, tell me, what were the moods like for you? Let's touch on that for a minute, because that's what we kind of laughingly broadcast this, you know, Pride Month special, 2 sets of hormones, 1 house. You know, how did that display for you when it came to mood, energy, attitude, responses, reactions?
Oh, a short fuse. I mean, I've always had quite a temper. Again, a lot of people don't understand that about me, but people that know me fairly well will know that I've always had a short temper. But it was like that was magnified 100-fold, and it was really scary for me and for anybody around me, you know. And poor old Taz was caught in the middle of that. So I've always had that, and it felt like everything that was always been a concern for me with my emotional and mental health became even bigger. It was a bigger thing. So, for instance, also that just feeling of just not wanting to do anything, just really kind of, you know, just sitting and stewing on things and not working things through, just really flying off the handle. That kind of stuff was really, really obvious to me. And even if you're in that state where you're recognizing this is not right, still crying and screaming and all the rest of it, all those things that, you know, really actually it's not right, but you hope it will come back, you'll be back to normal soon, but losing yourself in it. And I think just that lack of clarity on anything, you know, making big decisions, no way was I going to do that, because even the little things became massive things. You know, like knowing I'd got to take, I don't know, the dog to the vets or something just for their vaccination, and turning that into a huge thing, you know, really blowing things out of proportion. That was another sign for me. All of these things and more. And every day was different, you know, and finding those good days. There was a time when finding those good days was really minority. Yeah, it sounds really over, but I really loved, that's why I loved the documentary that was on with Davina McCall, because I thought that was really interesting, people talking about stuff. But even then, I thought that just scratched the surface. And the thing is, it affects us all differently. I think that's the other thing as well, that we need to recognize that there's no one size fits all. It's different for every one of us, and how we deal with that and what it brings out in us.
100%. And again, for me, what's Kate saying? Really feel for you. It's hard enough having 2 teenagers and a hormonal mum. You are looking great there. Absolutely, she is, Kate. Thank you. Whereas for me, and again, I'm in the kind of perimenopausal phase at the moment, and it's not so much anger for me, it's tears. I'm just crying at anything. I'm so emotionally vulnerable all the bloody time. And so, swore, you know, it's when I'm with clients, somehow I can turn it back up and it's fine. But it's when I'm sitting in my own time and in my own esteem, and, you know, I've got all these tools, all these amazing empowerment. I've won an award for being an empowerment specialist just today. And it's the irony. Woo! The irony. I've got all these tools, all these amazing coaching and mindset tools, and yet this I can't fix. And then that grows frustration, because anyone who knows me will know I'm one of life's fixers. I'm quite solution focused. Not always with my coaching. That's more about we're not transactional when we're working with people. That's about getting them to where they need to be, and it's a long-term relationship, and there's always somewhere else to go. But when it comes to my own stuff, I want to be able to find a solution. And of course, it's not just me. Kate's a crier too. She's right.
Yeah, but I used to be, didn't I? And I would be, and I still can be. But now my first port of call is to be angry, then cry. And of course, sorry to interrupt you, Taz, what we found though, wasn't it? It was like a game of ping pong. Yeah. You know, it was going for once. So Taz would cry. I would get pissed off because she was crying. And then I'd get angry because I was pissed off that she was crying and I was concerned that I hadn't been able to stop her crying. So then I'd get angry with myself and internalize it. Then I'd get more angry and then I'd cry. And then Taz would have to look after me as I was crying while she was still crying. And then we'd both be crying. And that would be a complete and utter mess. And then
I'd get a little bit angry because it's like, why does it have to get to this every time for you to feel, Asha, for you to feel? You know, why? Why can't we just bypass the anger and just go to the tears together and pick each other up and be wonderful? Yeah. It doesn't make sense. So that's the point for me, that I then get so frustrated because I can't fix it. Because none of the tools are working, or they will at least pull me up enough, but they won't solve it long term. You know, I started, and this year it's been worse, and I don't know if it's because of lockdown or just because I'm getting further into hormonal craziness, and I'm about this far away to speaking to a GP and saying, can we talk HRT at the minute, because I've been tracking my days on a calendar now, and I even started tracking moon phase, not just dates, but when are the full moons, is that affecting my moods? And there are some patterns there. Well, on average, for about the past 3 or 4 months, out of the entire month, I've had about 4 good days each month. And that's a bit pants, really. 4 good days in a month, that's pants. But let's just talk a little bit about when we both started to clash, because before I went into menopause, when Ash was just angry and in menopause, and I didn't know what to do. Again, I'm solution focused, and I'd be like, why is she beating me up? I was going through all these. If you
just make that clear, Taz, that's verbally, not physically.
Verbally. Verbally, sorry. If you are in a relationship with someone with female hormones, folks, please do bear this in mind, that if you are not, Marina's saying try a lady magnet. Yeah, we tried, didn't work for us. Tried them. Great, I'm glad they worked for you, didn't work for us. Asha did lose it in her knickers a few times though.
I did. And the magnet.
Anyway. And the magnet. But before I was going through it, I couldn't understand what was going on, because I think until you're there, you can't have any real concepts. And I was like, why is this woman who purports to love me shouting at me, verbally throwing things at me? Why am I getting the blame for things? Why is she angry all the time? Why is she paranoid? Why am I feeling so abused? You know, all this stuff. And now I get it. Now I'm going through it, because it does feel like total madness. But before I was there, I couldn't understand how, from the outside looking in, your behaviour seemed so unreasonable and unstable. And again, I couldn't fix it. So I really want to say that to everybody out there. If you are in a relationship with somebody who is going through hormonal changes of any kind, please, please, please cut them some slack, and please understand that it's probably not about you. And I couldn't get my head around that. The amount of times we ended up having spats before I hit the crying phase, because I was saying, but why are you treating me like this? What? I've done nothing but support you. Why are you blatting me with this stuff? You know what? And she wouldn't know. And then she'd get angry, and then again we'd end up in the cycle, because I'd be like, oh no, I'm about to lose the love of my life, and she can't love me anymore, my relationship's crumbling, and I don't know who I am without my wife, and all this big dramatic stuff. And then the tears again, and then again. Then she'd get angry because she'd made me cry. Just a lot of it was frustration for me, because it would get to that boiling point where there's nothing I can do about this. And, you know, there's only so many doors you can punch and stuff. So exercise works. I've realised that exercise works. We've both started doing exercise a lot more.
And our saviour, hasn't it? It has for me anyway. Without that, I think these last 15 months in lockdown, 15, 16 months would have been very different. And thank goodness for virtual challenges.
Totally. You know, you're doing a lot of cycling, aren't you?
I'm on the 13th one. I've just taken on my biggest challenge to date, which is Route 66, which is nearly 4,000 kilometres. I'm 70 kilometres in, which I did yesterday or the day before. Be cycling again later. And it's helped me so much. It's helped both of us, hasn't it? I mean, I think that's the worst thing you can do is sit in it, however difficult it is, even if it just means getting out and going for a walk around the block, do something, don't stay in that state.
Yeah, look at Kate's comment there too. I'm exhausted from trying to keep a lid on it all, having two teenagers with their own hormones and a hubby who struggles with mental ill health. I always try to be a steadying force, but of course then when I do let it build up too much, everyone knows about it. And yes, exercise is making a huge difference to me too.
It does.
And Marina's saying diet, healthy eating helps. It definitely does.
Definitely.
We, a few years back, because Asha had an MS diagnosis some years back and had a relapse where she wasn't able to walk properly, and working with a wonderful guy called Adam Stevens from Intelligent Eating, he advised that we try going whole food, plant-based, oil-free. And we cheat a bit now, but within 2 weeks she was walking again. And I'm so glad that we have that eating regime now. So we're naturally eating more healthily than we would do anyway. But that's another thing I noticed, actually. Diet's a really important one. One of the points that made us realise that I was going into perimenopause, or I was already there. So we were on holiday in the southwest, so obviously before lockdown. And I very, very rarely drink. I do so much energy work. I don't drink very often. Rarer than rocking horse poop for me to go and have a drink. And we thought, I'm on holiday. I'm relaxing. I'll have a glass of red wine. And I had I forget if I had one or two, but small glasses of red wine. And then by the next morning, I was having panic attacks. And I'd never, ever had panic attacks. Honestly, I'd kind of poo-pooed them a little bit. I knew people that had them, but I couldn't understand why you couldn't control them. And this awful panic was rising, and then that subsided. And then later on in the holiday, we went and went to a lovely cafe in Cheddar Gorge that did vegan cream teas, because again we were on holiday. They were on holiday, so we were being a bit naughty from our diet. It was like, can we get away with having this? Yeah, we can get away with that. And I also ordered a lovely big pot of a lovely black Assam tea mix. And guess what? By that evening, I was starting to have the panic attacks again. And eventually, I'm reading up, we recognised that what was triggering these panic attacks, and they really were horrible. And again, exercise got me out of those as well. If I got myself a decent weight, not just a 10K, by the time I got to about 50 reps, I was starting to feel a bit better. Let me just ping my light back on. Hold on. There we go. I'm all illuminated again, folks, all illuminated. Sorry for my gut waving in the frame there. But we recognised that what was triggering these panic attacks, and it was one of the known symptoms of perimenopause, was alcohol, refined sugar and caffeine. So my diet's cleaned up a lot. I've had to go completely caffeine-free for a while. Here's something some of you might not realise. I went on to decaf coffee. And then after a while, I started getting panic attacks again. I was like, how can this be happening? I've cut everything out. What can I cut out? Air? And when we looked and started to do some research, decaf coffee, folks, has caffeine in it. And I was getting the cumulative effect. So sorry if you're a coffee lover and you've weaned yourself off onto decaf coffee, it has caffeine. I'm now drinking a barley and chicory coffee substitute with no caffeine at all.
It's a really nice one, isn't it? It takes a while to get used to. It's the same with decaf tea. I have decaf tea now, and I never ever. I've been a tea drinker since I was this high, as opposed to this high, and really, I thought I couldn't transition to decaf. But I tell you what, I don't notice it now, and it took.
But remember, that decaf tea will have traces of caffeine, not as much as decaf coffee, I believe.
Yes.
But
okay.
Every now and then, Asha will go, I think I've had too much tea. So, Ellen, anybody need an amazing homeopath, by the way? Ellen Cook's your lady. She does bone as well. Ellen, there's so much rubbish and ready-made stuff. Good that you've both been able to work through it in the way that you have. And Kate is saying panic attacks and migraine were my first noticeable. I'm a professional speaker, you know. Noticeable symptoms too. So many of the symptoms mirrored my acromegaly that I got really paranoid and got worked up. So I thought I was having a heart attack. Yeah, we hear that quite a lot. Not the acromegaly, because Kate's really special and not many people have that apart from Kate Baddow and Tony Robbins. But certainly the heart attack thing. Anyway, one of the points we wanted to bring up, and we're going to wrap this fairly soon, not least because I'm late for my coaching client. Thank you, Emma Sheardown, for being a bit flexible with me on time. But when we got to that bickery stage, we noticed patterns. So we've already been talking to you here about some of those patterns. Anger meets those of you who do medicine work with us will recognise we were both in the maiden state. We were angry with each other. We'd shout back at each other. We'd end up in tears, and it was cyclical. And we noticed this pattern, the one we mentioned earlier, that nothing would pop. until one of us, 9 times out of 10, me, just because that's how my hormones were displaying, would cry. Then Asha would go through an angry phase because I was crying, and then I'd get even more angry and even upset that I was crying and needing support, and that she was getting angrier with me for crying. So you're angry with me for being upset? What? And then eventually either Ash would calm down, or she'd cry as well, or we'd both cry, or I'd just take myself up and cry it out and come downstairs, and Asha would be angrily washing the pots, but which was a good symptom. Yeah.
It was good. It shows you I've never been so angry because there's loads in the sink at the moment. So that
I've never done angry cleaning up. So sorry, folks, that didn't manifest in that way for me. But we recognised this pattern, and we said we need because of the coaching work that we both do. You know, me more on visibility, personal brand, emotional states, confidence, self-belief. Asha's more on content coaching, how to bring your brand out, how to tell your story. But we recognised from the coaching work that we both do that we needed a state breaker. We needed something to make one of us realise we're in this pattern again, and we need to stop this before it reaches its conclusion, because then we can just take a step back and breathe. And again, the irony in all of this is that we're one of those weird couples who've always been able to
just stop that there, Taz. We're just one of those weird couples.
Weird couples. Yeah. Yeah, cathartic, angry walking it off helps. But we're one of those weird couples who've always been quite happy spending like 24/7 together. If we could, we'd live in each other's pockets, not in a rude way. Maybe sometimes, to the point where in the early days, well-meaning friends would tell us that we needed to spend time apart and we were spending too much time together, and we'd be going, "But we want to spend more time together. Why would we not spend time together if we're happy in one another's company?" So that was the flip side of this, is that it wasn't like these couples who've been in lockdown and recognise they can't stand each other's company and they need space. We would still want to be with each other, even when we'd be going, "Rah!" So it wasn't even about we'd suddenly been in each other's space a lot more, because we've always been happy doing that. But anyway, we needed this state breaker, so we decided to come up with something, with a word, a symbol, something that we would not normally be talking about. And whoever spotted it first would say this word or wave something, and our word ended up being ladybird. So the second one of us noticed we were going back into this pattern, we'd go, "Whoa, ladybird, ladybird, ladybird." Or we bought coasters with ladybirds, so if somebody was in full flow, we could just hold one up. That's not a coaster, that's my phone. I'm not that mad, you know. And that worked. So touch wood, she says, touching a coaster, a placemat, and touching my head as well. We're kind of through the worst part of that now, or at least the phases have moved on. But that really, really worked. So if you are in a relationship with someone that you genuinely want to spend time with and you genuinely love one another, try and come up with some kind of bit like a safe word for people who do that kind of stuff that oh God, we're so boring, you know. But try and come up with some kind of word or symbol that you both agree, so that if you spot yourselves going into a pattern, you can call it, and hopefully then both step back and go, "Oh shit, I'm so sorry, we are." Asha, how did you find that working when we did that?
Yeah, I think it worked really well, didn't it? And it still can occasionally if we need to do that. And
we managed not to throw the coasters at one another or
exactly.
anything. We never used them
put
like
them
a
down
chaperone.
calmly put them down instead of going, "Right, have that then," you know, and going whizzing off. I think, joking aside, I think it's really a really good thing to do if you can as a couple, if you've got that, because it just makes me wonder how many couples don't make it through simply because one of that couple is going through this. And, you know, all that kind of common sense goes out the window. You know, the person that you fell in love with, that you live with, that you spend time with, has suddenly changed into somebody completely different for that time, for that element of time.
It does feel proper gentle and high, doesn't it?
You know, what I would say is persevere with it. If you love that person and you work it through, it's possible to work through it. It's not the end of the relationship. It doesn't have to be. I think that's really important to say that, because things like that, we're joking about that now, but that actually was a huge thing for us, wasn't it? Bringing that in to kind of break the state and keep us on the right road, so we weren't saying things that we would regret for a long, long time afterwards. So, yeah, it's really important. And to laugh about it as well. You know, it's to retain that sense of humour. We've been in hysterics about that sometimes. We were telling some people on our training course a couple of weekends back, talking about the ladybird thing. In fact, I think there's somebody, I think Ellen here at the moment, we were talking about that with her and saying that really saved our relationship at that point when we were going through stuff. And so just, find the funny, still laugh at the same things. You're still the same person underneath.
Yeah. So I do remember that. The amount of people, and I've got to say, usually fellas who've told me that, oh, their wives have been, or their partner's been acting so awfully, and how can they treat people like this? And they've nearly left, or even they have left. And, you know, I have to now, from the position I'm in now, go, guys, really? And I know it's not always guys, but that's just the experience I've had when I've spoken to people. They're not doing it on purpose. It's just what's going on. It's the chemical balances in their body going all over the place. And I think we've laughed it off for so long and started talking about, menopause and midlife crisis. Ha ha ha. It's not like that. We need to stop laughing about it and start speaking far more frankly and openly about it. Our GPs need to be helping people understand it a lot more. We need to be understanding it a lot more. Before I hit it, I thought I might just be a bit forgetful and have some hot flushes, but it's so much more, and we need to know. We really do need to push that home, and I think our health services need to get so much better at so many things, actually, but particularly helping people and couples to understand what it's like, what it can be like when menopause hits, and coping strategies, because it really can be like you're living with somebody else for a while. Asha,
but we're still here.
We're still here, and we're still laughing, and we're still loving each other. And
we are. I just think I think the thing is to remember that you fell in love with that person, you still love that person, however trying and how difficult it is, whatever they're saying, even if sometimes this is from personal experience, even if that person is telling you to F off, the last thing they want is for you to F off. Actually, they want.
That was Asha saying that, not me.
I know exactly. There you go.
So that's a really good point, Kate. And that's another point that, she'd be telling me to F off, and I'd be like, is she really dumping me after all these years together? Is this really the end? Does she really want? And there was that going, I don't know if you mean this. I don't know if you actually want me to go. I don't know. And sometimes I'd just go upstairs or get out of the way or something, and she'd be like, why, where have you gone? It's like, you just told me to go. And then I'd be like, oh, fuck off then. But you just told me to go. Yes, but you should know me well enough to know that I didn't mean that by now.
But that's the thing. I think sometimes we're all too quick to kind of take somebody as to take that as read, when actually what's going on is that person underneath it all just wants the opposite. They want you to be there for them. They're not quite sure how and why and what they need, but you just need to be there and listen and just work through it together. And so I mean, thank goodness, Taz, you didn't F off, because I love you to bits.
I love you too, and by the same token, it's amazing you're still here with what a weepy, pathetic snotball I've become. And I shall say, what's the matter? And sometimes this is another thing. I've got to get off this in a minute because all my appointments will be running back to back. I've got Emma, then Ellen, then I've got a broadcast to do with America Out Loud.
Something that can go out the window sometimes as well.
On rainbow washing. The catatonic. Sometimes Ash will ask me what I need or what's going on, and my brain can't function enough to say it, and I'll just sit there and go, and there's just nothing. And in my head, I'm trying to go, is it this? Is it this? Is it this? But somehow this won't connect and the words won't come out. And that's something that happens as well. So patience. Yeah, massive patience. So thank you, Asha. Asha's getting shorter and shorter. Have you noticed she's doing this?
Am I? Sorry. The trouble is, I'm in a dog sandwich at the moment. I've got a cockapoo one side, and I've
this is like talking to my mum now. She does this, doesn't she?
I've got a Labradoodle one side and a cockapoo the other side, and I'm getting a smaller and smaller gap to sit in. So I keep getting a paw.
It's a good job you're a skinny little minx now, then, isn't it? With all the exercise you've been doing.
I know.
So yes, bear that in mind too. If you ask someone what's wrong, and if they're in the middle of a hormonal meltdown, they very often won't be able to tell you, and they're not deliberately giving you the silent treatment. They just can't get the words to come out of their gob, and it's weird. So weird, so weird.
So on the upside, Taz, just before we leave, what are the positives that have come out of it? Because we've talked a lot about the challenges. What have been the positives? What have you learnt from this experience so far? It's me turning the tables now. Aha!
Recognizing that even through the most challenging times that I know have broken so many couples before, and will, I'm sure, in the future, recognizing that we have enough love and understanding and patience with one another to go through it and to come through the other side. And frankly, if we can get through this, I think we can get through anything. So that's been one of the upsides for me. And we didn't start doing the diet because of menopause, but healthy eating has been something that starting to recognize more of the things that make me happy as well. So I started to go to the gym and work with personal trainers a few years back just to get my health up. But now that's become so important. I hate doing the workout, but I know how much better I feel. Yeah. And again, I said earlier, I really do have 10K hex bells that sit under the table that I just pick up. I've got, you know, a 5K and a 12K slam ball as well. Slam balls are brilliant. Get yourself a slam ball. Nice heavy slam ball. Hold it above your head and just keep slamming it down between your feet. Not a medicine ball, a slam ball. They are brilliant for working your anger out. And interestingly, the movement for that is very similar to an old medicine technique for getting rid of stuck energy. So, yes. Maz is saying, having someone to support you through is wonderful. I'm so glad Baz was supportive with me and still is. Yeah, you got a good one there, Maz. And it's so beautiful that you rhyme. Just, you know, Maz and Baz. So that's been the good thing for me, is recognizing that we really can get through it, recognizing that I don't always have to be a warrior. I can't be through this. Sometimes I do need to just sit and let the tears go. And that's been so important, to feel safe enough and held enough to be able to do that. Because so many people just, you know, think I'm the kind of hardball ass kick coach and don't recognize that there's a great big softie under this exterior. And that's coming out a lot right now, and sometimes it's annoying for me, but it's okay. And rediscovering my love of cooking to chill out, you know, nice clean kitchen. If Ash has been really angry and has cleaned the kitchen, you know, that's another upshot. When Asha gets angry, she cleans.
Last, I better be angry longer then, because I'm going to sort the kitchen out.
I'd rather have you not angry and have a messy kitchen.
No, you're right. I'm joking. I jest.
We both do it. It's not always just Asha.
Just 90% of the time.
90%. I'm more our jobs person. I'm the fixer. Asha's the cleaner. That needs fixing. I'll do that. You do that. Not stereotypical at all.
No, not you and power tools. But anyway, that's another
power tools. Yeah, rediscovering my love of cooking again. You know, growing herbs in the garden and just using them. They've been the joys. What about you, Ash? What have been?
My joys have been, learning that I can cycle and my legs are strong. Oh yeah, look. That's nice. Yeah, nice one, Tammy.
Tammy is with child right now, so I'm sure she's got hormones are popping all over the place as well.
Yeah. But yeah, no, exercise for me has been the joy through this, in that I've learned that actually just buying an exercise bike at the beginning of lockdown 1, I think it was, wasn't it? And getting that. And then we broke one exercise bike out to get another one. But doing that has been huge for me. That's been a huge thing. And actually us spending time buying that love seat that you bought, that sounds a bit dodgy, love seat for the garden that Taz almost turned into what we would have called a divorce seat, because she fixed it together the wrong way round. So instead of the chairs doing that, they'd be doing that. So is that
we didn't notice before we put it all together, to be fair. Turn the love seat into the hate seat.
I've got humour. We've rediscovered our humour, and if you can laugh through stuff together, then you're in a really good space. Because humour always gets you through whatever it really does. It has done for us anyway, even through some of the darkest times. So it's been great. So yeah, that. And I think having quality time with us together again, you know, at home and enjoying our home again.
Yeah. Okay, folks, I'm now, we said we'd do 10 minutes. We've been on here for 33 and I'm 16 minutes late for my coaching session with Emma.
Oopsie,
so Ellen, if you're still online, if yours is pushed back a little bit, that's why I'll be with you soon as. We'll see you soon. I hope there's been some tips to help people in this. I know it was kind of tongue-in-cheek, but there's some serious stuff in this too. So I hope it's helped. And if there's anything we can help with in future, if you want us to do more joint broadcasts, that's together, not with the joint, because again, we're too square for things like that. Then
time to leave now.
I should go now. I think you should. Take care, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.